Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Talking Craps. And tonight, I've got good news and I've got bad news. So those of you joining us in the chat, you've already probably seen the chat. The bad news is that Heavy lost power about 30-40 minutes ago, and he's not going to be able to make the show tonight. The good news is we still have Mark Evangelisto, and he's going to be talking to us about Bone Tracker, about Axis Power Craps, and really anything craps. So this is going to be the Mark Evangelisto show with Heavy out there maybe fielding a couple of questions in the chat for us. Now, I also have to say that my state has also announced that they're doing some blackouts, and they are going to be random, and they are going to happen without any notice. So it is possible we're going to lose our connection, and if it does, we'll pick it up, we'll punt, and we'll reschedule all of this. But we will reschedule with Heavy sometime in the very near future, and I'll be sure to get the message out on the forums and even on my Facebook page and just everywhere that I can. I'll let you know when we're going to have Heavy back on. But tonight's show, it's going to be all about Mark Evangelisto. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks Dave for having me.
So anybody that's been around the dice forums before, let me flip over here. So if they've been around the dice forums before, they've seen your name, and they've probably seen you as 22 Inside. So let's kick the show off. Tell us a little bit about 22 Inside. Where'd that name come from?
Okay, well, that came, when I first signed up for Heavy's forums, when I kind of settled on Axis Power Craps as where I wanted to kind of learn the game and hone my skills. When I was signed up on his forums, I was trying to think of a good handle for me that was kind of representative of the game, representative of me. And back in those days, I was decidedly a low roller with a small bankroll. So 22 Inside seemed like a decent handle to go with. Since then, I've very much outgrown that handle. And it's a running joke between Heavy and I now that I need a new one. Bump up the number a bit. So.
Sorry, folks. I'm like I said, I had the production set up for 3 guests, so I'm kind of fumbling around the buttons for a moment. But yeah, so Mark, tell us a little bit about your journey with dice. How did you actually get involved with playing the game?
Sure. I've been playing the game for a long time, mostly just kind of casual and trying to learn it. I've been, growing up as a kid, my dad was a big time card player, and he was really good at cards, and he taught me a lot about discipline in the casino and taught me the games and stuff. So I came into at least into gambling itself with at least a good fundamentals of discipline and bankroll management and all that stuff. But for a long time, I was a card player for a long time, blackjack and whatnot. This was how I was raised. But I was always drawn to the excitement and the yelling and screaming of the craps tables and how social it was. So I kind of watched for a long time, never really kind of jumped in. But back around 89 or 90, I joined a small startup company. I'm in the software field, and I just moved up to New England. To join a small little startup company, and we were headed out for our big trade show of the year, which happened to be in Vegas that year. And we were only, I don't know, maybe 20 people at the time, maybe 30 people. I forget how big we were, but we did a big company meeting before we all traveled out for the trade show, and we taught dice. There were a bunch of us that liked to gamble, that were gamblers. But we played poker together, and this and that, and we held a company-wide meeting to teach them about different games, and craps was one of them. So my buddy took that one because I didn't know much about the game at the time. But that week out in Vegas was where I kind of cut my teeth on the game. We played at Slots of Fun a lot. We just they had that table out on the street where you could play for a quarter back then. And I just had a ball with it, and I was hooked from that point. So just kind of played off and on for a long time. But I kind of got the, being a software and numbers type and kind of analytical, I kind of looked at the game from a different view, and I thought, there's got to be something to trying to reduce a lot of the randomness of the game, and to try to get some control over your outcomes and be a better player and a better gambler at the game. And that got me off on a journey to, kind of learn about this world of DI that I never really heard about. And so I kind of just dabbled in that for a long time, just kind of self-taught. But then I kind of stumbled on Heavy's group and kind of decided that was the path for me that I wanted to take after kind of looking at the landscape of different companies and what was out there, and joined up with them. My first class with them probably back in 2015 or so.
Yeah. So you started out as a software guy. You enjoyed gambling, from your father. He kind of taught you the ropes, and then you actually started playing it a little bit more frequently. So your journey sounds very similar, I think, to a lot of us. You heard the enthusiasm, you heard the excitement of the game, wondered what it's all about, and then started to dabble in it. And if you're anything like I think, instantly you knew this is the game. This is the one that I want to become good at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
that was one. That was like this is the game I felt we could you could have some control over. You can play blackjack and play basic strategy and counting, whatever. But you're still at the mercy of the deck of cards that and what's coming. With dice, having that a little bit extra bit of control is kind of felt like you're in some kind of control of your own destiny in terms of how you do in any number of ways. Throwing the dice and betting and whatever. So.
All right, so guys, what we're going to do here in the next few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about Axis Power Craps and Mark's journey with them. And we're also going to dive into Bone Tracker. Now, if you've been playing this game for a while, I'm sure you've run across Bone Tracker before. Now, the exciting thing about that is version 2.0, or at least I'm calling it version 2.0. I don't know if he is or not, but a new and upgraded version is coming out soon. And Mark's going to be able to show us a little bit of a display or a demo of what's coming up soon. Now, we are going to be able to take a lot of your questions from the comments. So if you would help me out, put a capital Q or something before your question, and that'll help me identify really quick and easily what I need to pull in. So help me out there, put some questions out there, and we'll pull them in for Mark to address. So Mark, let's go back and tell us about Axis Power Craps. So you're starting to get more interested in the game, and you want to take it to the next level. So what happened there? How did you get in touch with Heavy?
Well, Heavy's not a hard guy to find. I just kind of went. He's got his website was out there. It was just a matter of finding it. I kind of watched. He's got a free version of it where you don't need an account to log in. There's a public view to it that has some of the forums are accessible and all of his content, and he's got so much content out there to look at. So I spent a lot of time when they were just kind of reading up about the game and reading some of the forums and seeing what high quality the forums were compared to some of the other stuff that was out there. There were a lot of the public forums that were I kind of shied away from some of those because a lot of them are just kind of these drama sessions of people just wanting to kind of tear at each other and that wasn't very helpful. I didn't find it to be very helpful at all. So when I stumbled upon Heavy site and all the great information that was there, and looking at at least the parts of the forum that were available before signing up for anything, I got a sense of the quality of the people that were there and this kind of stuff that they were talking about, and their serious approach to the game. And so then I took a look at where where Heavy was teaching, and kind of thought, do I want to do a class? And kind of reach out to Heavy and talk to him about it, and went forward from there.
Okay. So we've got a couple of people starting to put comments out here. I'm going to pull a couple in. Just I don't know if you saw me post them, but we've got Howard Rock and Roller out there.
Hey, Howard. Good to see you, buddy.
And then we've got Nick Boritz out there saying, "Nice to see you again, Mark."
He's Nick on the boards. Yep.
And another Texan down there. We've got Joe Banda. He's using Bone Tracker today. So that's very, very popular software.
It is. I mean, for one thing, it's free, and it can do it. It can do. I mean, in terms of a DI tool, it's to me, in my opinion, it's the best one out there.
Yeah. All right, and we got Franklin Benz asking a question that maybe you can answer for us. So during COVID, why does it seem that the bet minimums in craps have increased rather than stay the same? And does the house gain a greater advantage doing this?
The advantage itself doesn't change. The percentages of the bets themselves don't really change. Kind of about how much you're betting. I mean, the free odds bet is a little different because that kind of raises and lowers is the house edge. Because of the nature of the bet. But in terms of the amount that you're betting, changing the edge, it doesn't really change the edge. What we're seeing though is that $5 tables have been around forever. I mean, they were the main table you would see for the low end tables, and I think they're getting pushed out just due to just general inflation, game inflation, and I think in terms of what happened with COVID, the casinos had to force themselves to, put less spots at the table for players, so they had the same amount of people manning the tables, so their take per player per hour took a big hit. Given they do all these calculations based upon expectations of their edge versus how many hands per hours they're getting, and so I think that with the less number of players, they were getting less throughput on the tables, but the same amount of their expenses from the bottom line, given the number of dealers that they need to run the tables, etc. That they tried to offset that a bit with higher minimums to get more money on the table.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we're starting to see those roll to win games start to roll out. I've got a couple of here in Oklahoma that I've played at. I heard that Harrah's installed one in Las Vegas, I believe last week, and in Florida. So those machines are starting to make their ways out, and it is a lower cost for the casino to run and operate those tables. There's a lot of chatter about those tables and if they're actually going to take over or not. And my personal take on it is no, they're not going to take over. It is a different experience. And I tell you, you miss handling real chips and you miss the chatter with the crew. But what I do think is, Mark, I think you're right. I think that those table limits are probably here to stay, and these roll to win games, they're going to be catering to the $5 or maybe even the $10 minimum bet player. That's just my own personal take on it, though.
I think so. And I think the tables themselves have been kind of a mixed bag. I think there are a couple of places that put them in that I've already taken them out. They were on for a while. I don't think they drew the attention, or maybe something about it. They just didn't catch on it wherever they put them in, and I think some of them are kind of gathering dust right now. So I think I think that they'll find their place. I think they cater to a different. Again, and from what I hear, I haven't had a chance to play on one yet, but I think that they do change the dynamics of the game a little bit. It does take away some of that social aspect of it. Some of the feedback I've heard from some of my friends that have played is that the excitement level, that social interaction goes down quite a bit because people are staring at the screens, and even though the table is trying to, all these bells and whistles going off and, music playing and all that other junk, the actual interaction of people at the table has changed.
Yeah, it's very muted.
Yeah.
But I would say it's not all bad either. There are no chips down at the end. There's nothing in your way.
That's true. So I would be trying them out. I'm curious at least anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's take it back over to the questions. I see Arnell has put in a question out there, and you started to address the current version of Bone Tracker, but will the new Bone Tracker be available to the masses as a free download?
Absolutely. Heavy, as always, and the original author of Bone Tracker was by the name of Mad Dog. It was, Heavy's. And Heavy's providing it has always been, that was meant to be free, and it will continue to be that way.
We've got another.
What we may do is, we've kind of kicked around some ideas of maybe some sort of analysis service to help players understand, the data that they're generating, and that may be some kind of subscription service. We haven't worked out a lot of it.
Well, I think that's a brilliant idea. There is so much in Bone Tracker that that the general public may not take the time to read the documentation that comes along with it, or truly understand. They're not necessarily a numbers person. They need help understanding what it is that they're seeing. Bone Tracker is so much more than the SRR, and we'll get into that here in a few minutes. But I bring in a couple of other comments. I see you have a friend out there, Michael Feldman. Say, hey, Mark, you're an amazing dice controller and a great friend from the best casino host around.
That's about the best I can hear from a guy who I count is far better than I am. So, Michael, good to see you, buddy. I look forward to shooting together with you soon.
Yeah. And then our friend Mark Kilgore, he's out there watching from Costa Rica. So he's out of town this week.
Living the dream. Living the dream, Mark. Living the dream.
Yeah. Michael Barnes watching from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hey, Michael.
And then the Florida one is electronic dice. Okay, so going back to the that roll to win machine. Yeah, so they still can't throw the dice in Florida, but they can flip them out on an electronic pad to simulate the dice. So hopefully Florida will get real dice here before too long.
Yeah, Howard is Howard Newman is itching to get the get real
yeah.
Florida. Oh yeah. So I'm sure we'll hear a resounding cheer from Howard when that becomes a reality. So
yeah, it might be in our best interest that doesn't happen, because Howard might not come back out to Vegas anymore if he can play craps in Florida.
Keep Howard away from Vegas.
All right, I see a friend of mine, Mel Lum Ho from Craps Hawaii. He's out there. He is catching a quick session of the show while he's waiting to board his flight. So I'm going to give the crew a shout out real quick. So we have several people from the Craps Nation headed to Las Vegas right now. Sam I think he already landed earlier today. Mel Lum Ho from Craps Hawaii. Brian from the Hawaiian Crap Shooters and the rest of the crap shooting team. Bird Dog 301. A lot of people are out in Vegas this week, so we're looking forward to some great trip reports from them over the upcoming days. If you haven't checked out their YouTube channels, I'll put a link to several of them down in the comments after the show tonight. Check them out, because I'm sure you're going to have some great trip reports coming in from those guys.
Yeah, Brian's channels are great. The guys in Hawaii are doing a bang up job with their game, and I always tune into Brian's channels. I look forward to his post on Facebook.
Yeah,
great guy. Hope
all right, we actually have a question coming in from old number 7. Roll to win odds lower in Biloxi at Palace 1.5 2x. Do you know anything about that?
No, I haven't heard that. So we've had a number of reports on Heavy's boards about the conditions and with the roll to win tables. There's in 3 places right now in Biloxi. I don't think anybody's mentioned that, so that's news to me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't normally do the play with odds, come bets, and place or pass line and come bets. So I didn't check out the odds at the one in Oklahoma that I played. But next time I'm down there, I'll give it a shot and see what it looks like. All right, let's see here. Another one. Are the lower in other places? I'm guessing he's asking about the odds on those roll to wins. I'm not really sure, but
the place I've seen lower odds is on a cruise ship.
On a cruise ship, what kind of odds do you get lower than 2 times odds?
Single odds.
Really?
Single odds, unless you're playing in a quarter, then it's double odds. And if you're playing on the pass line, and if you're playing $50 on the pass line, then they'll do 3, 4, 5. But it doesn't even. I mean, at a single odds game, if you might as well just place the bet, you'll get paid better. Even double odds is kind of a tough game to beat.
Yeah. The Dice Grinders out there saying, it's great that you guys contribute to the community, and just want to say you guys are appreciated. So thank you, Mark.
Hey, thanks. And Arnell, I love playing on your live fantasy craps. Hoping to get back to it soon. You do a good service too, with providing it every week for people. So hats off to you as well.
Yep. So I guess while we're on that, let's give a plug out to, I'm going to give one for Arnell and for George from CY. So if you're not familiar, George from CY on Sunday mornings at 11 Central, or no, 10 Central. I'm sorry, I get the times wrong. 10 Central. He hosts a game where people from all around have tables in their basements or in their garage. They get together and they play a game and they put it out there on YouTube for everybody to see. And Arnell, he does it on Wednesday nights. And Mark here, Mark has been one of the fan favorites to watch him actually play and shoot. So if you ever get a chance to see him live on one of these shows, definitely check it out. All right, Mark, why don't we hold on some of the questions here and tell us a little bit about Axis Power Craft. So you are an instructor with the crew.
I am. So I think I mentioned a little bit earlier. I've been with Axis Power. You know, I cut my teeth on DI with Axis Power Crafts and Heavy and Howard back around 2015 timeframe. And you know, Heavy and Howard have always been my mentors. You know, for the game, and it brought me a long way. You know, where I am today, I owe to those guys, and you know, putting the practice in, of course. But you know, they've taught me more than you know. I'm grateful to them, and at some point, I guess I got good enough that you know, Heavy invited me on. Says, you know, I need some help in with the Biloxi. I was a couple years into it, and he had a big sign up for Biloxi and needed some extra help. And hey, you wanna come try it out and help me out and do some instructing? I'm like, let's go for it. I mean, that's the best compliment I could get from Heavy was when he asked me to come join. That, you know, it was kind of justification that I had, you know, progressed like I thought I had. So.
Yeah, you know, so speaking for me personally, that's the dream. I'd love to do that. Now I know, I know. I've got a ways to go before I can prove my worth, but that's the dream.
I've watched you. I mean, well, when you were first starting out and posting, you know, I've watched you progress. You know, you don't post a lot about your own game these days, or not as much as you used to. But I was definitely noticing a progression there. So you've come a long way.
Yeah, and I was actually talking to a person on email about that earlier today. That no, I don't play from my table very much anymore, and there's a lot of reasons, and one of them is that I'm just not that good. And I need to, when I'm down there playing, I really need to focus on what I'm doing rather than focus on what I'm filming. And so I made the decision to stay away from the camera down at my table, at least for a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the game is that, you know, DI itself requires some fundamental attributes. I guess maybe is the best way to put it. You know, it's a learned skill like any sport. There are aspects to it that some people are going to have, some people aren't. Some people can learn and overcome some of their physical deficiencies or, you know, physical attributes that maybe might, you know, make coming up to speed a little bit harder than others. There's a number of factors to it.
Yeah. All right, let's go back out to the comments. You've got Greg Stroud out there saying, "Tag Mark," from Greg and Diane.
Hey, Greg, how you doing, buddy? Looking to see you on a cruise like sometime soon, hopefully.
Cruise. Yeah, you clued me in again. We also want to talk about Craps Cruise before we let you go at the end of the day. So hold on to that topic. We'll come back to that. And then we got Alan Smetana asking a question. What does it cost for the Axis service? So you don't actually have a service to analyze the craps, but you do offer a couple of different courses on becoming, I don't know if expert is the right word, but...
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you know, the Heavy's all about classes, just like any of these other, you know, any of the other outfits that are out there. And the way Heavy structures it, you know, the first time players, there's one price, and then alumni get a reduced rate. And where the classes are does change too, because you know, the Heavy going to Vegas versus going to Biloxi or Shreveport, you know, his costs are different, and so that he factors that into it. So he doesn't have a set price, which is kind of nice. So, you know, if you want to, you know, go check him out at a place that's closer, if you want to go to Shreveport or Biloxi, you know, those are a little bit less, and but his prices are competitive with everybody that's out there. So.
Yeah. And I would say that for the pricing, we're not going to really go into pricing here, but you
Yeah.
can go to www.accesspowercraps.com and you can learn about some of the upcoming events that that are going to be sponsored by Access Power Craps and get all the details that you need from there. Or there's a couple of different Facebook forums that Heavy runs. It's one is you know what? I just lost it. I can't think of the two different
He
forums.
runs a right side forum, a light side forum, and a dark side forum.
Right.
His heavy
So-
access power craps forum is primarily about regular pass line plays, and then he's got a wrong way craps forum that is more about dark side. Don't play.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going here. Sorry, I'm trying to scan through the messages to see if we have any other messages. I saw one. Here we go. From Roll to Win Craps. Ed Parsons out there saying thank you to all involved with the new bone tracker upgrades. And it's not just you. There is a team of people actually working on it, right?
Yeah, it's myself and another guy, Nate Fernandez, who goes by Darth Nader is his handle. We're the two people that are implementing this stuff. Although I have to give a shout out that when we show it, there's this new bone tracker is truly revolutionary in terms of its approach to analyzing your skills and coming up with new sets and whatever. And a lot of that work goes out to the guy on Heavy's forum. He goes by the handle of Coaster. His name is Doug Fryer, and he's a mathematician by trade. I think he teaches math at colleges or whatever. But he came up with his own approach for himself in terms of how he chooses dice sets or whatever. And Nate and I sat down with him out in Vegas last year or the year before. It's been COVID's kind of messed up my calendar here a little bit on me, but we sat down with him and took a look at what he had, and light bulbs are just going off on our heads. Like this is the way. And we said, and he did it all, and it was all in like Word documents and little index cards and stuff like that. But we said we got to apply this in Bone Tracker and make it reusable. And
Mark,
it's phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
Why don't we use this as a segue to go ahead and move into Bone Tracker and show us what you got?
All right, we can do that. So Bone Tracker, Bone Tracker's been around for a while. At least it predates my coming into the game seriously. So it's probably been around for a good. I mean, it's got support for old versions of Excel, which probably kind of is an indicator for how long it's been around. But we recently did in terms of Nate and I said, okay, there's a few things we wanted to add to it, kind of inject some life back into it again, kind of fix a couple bugs that it had that we had noticed along the way, add a couple features to it that we thought were kind of like low hanging fruit that made sense to add to it. So we started implementing it, but we wanted to get some airtime with it, some testing. So, in end of last year, we ran a user group forum with 12 randomly selected people that were given advanced copies of the beta for this new version, and they submitted roles for it, and we had these discussion threads on Heavy's forum where we essentially Heavy, Nate, and I analyzed each set of tosses as they kind of evolve through a full book of tosses over 9 or 10 weeks or something like that. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of good shooters that all the skill sets are all over the map in terms of people that we chose to be participants in it. But it was a lot of fun, and that kind of helped drive the finalizing of the beta, which we're just putting the final dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the release for it. So it should be a version 5.6.02, I think is the
Oh, wow.
the version. Yeah,
It's more versions than I thought. I called it version 2.0. It's just what I know.
we hadn't had a release in years, so this is just the next version number of the. Essentially, it's basically we're putting the stake in the ground with this one. This is the old Bone Tracker versus the next generation stuff we're working on, which is going to be a new one. But we wanted to get something's finalized on that for people that to get something out new to people, and then really refocus our efforts on the new version that we're going to be coming out with.
Okay.
So let's see.
Well, let me put in a couple of comments real quick, and then we'll have you share your screen and show off a few things. We've got Kevin M. out there saying, "Hey, Mark, it's good to see you live. I hope all is well, and hope to see you at the tables." So I'm assuming you know Kevin M.
We're locked up here, so I don't know if you can hear me, but it's like things locked up for a second. Either my end or yours.
I can hear you.
I see Kevin. I see Kevin there. Good, yeah, hey Kevin. Good to see you, buddy. Kevin is another one of our heavy hitters on Heavy's forum. He's literally hands down the best treehouse shooter I've ever seen. He's just a phenomenal guy to watch the tables, and he's a good guy.
Then we got Joseph Batista out there. Great to see you, Mark, and hello from Hershey.
Hey Joseph, how are those figs coming? How are those fig trees coming along?
And then Michael Barnes, probably know me as ASDVDEL77.
That's the handle on Heavy's boards.
Yeah. So yeah, you definitely got some followers out there. Michael Barnes saying single odds on the cruise ship, and is your opinion what is the best dice set to avoid the 7?
The one that works for you. That's a question that everybody asks. When everybody posts a report, the first question you can almost count on. You should take start taking bets on how long it takes for that question to come. Is what dice set we're using, and it really. There are 576 dice sets, possible dice sets that are out there, and the one that works for you is almost guaranteed not to work for someone else, for me or for David or for anyone. Everybody's toss characteristics are a little different. So what set works for one person is probably not going to work for another.
All right, Mark, why don't we go ahead and take a look at Bone Tracker, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what's coming out?
Sure. Let's take a look at the old one first, or what's new is old. This new version, we'll work with the one that's just coming out.
Okay.
So let me bring that up.
There we go. We can see it.
So what are we looking at here? So this is the new. This is the 5.6.02 version of Bone Tracker, the one that we're just wrapping up now. This is my last set of tosses into there, so just to kind of give me some data to talk about. It's my last book of rolls. So the main where you start off with when you're entering tosses, you're on this. Bone Tracker is a series of tabs, and the roll data tab is where you enter your tosses. There's a handy little pop-up form for you to quickly enter data, and so first thing you do is you set up your dice set here that you're using. What is this? This is where you specify what dice set you're using, and in Bone Tracker, you have to use the same set for an entire book of rolls. It's not really a betting tool, so you're not changing your set, as you're trying to snipe numbers, whatever. So you start with a set, and you generate data for it, and for a group of tosses, and then Bone Tracker will help analyze that for you. So this you determine your set right here. You only need to fill in the top and facing faces. Bone Tracker will fill in the rest for you here. So just if you're throwing this happens to be a 3D set. We could throw a hardware set, just set 3s and 4s here maybe, whatever. But once you get those in, and you want to enter a book of rolls, you can bring up this little roll entry form. Kind of you can type them in if you want here. You can type in the toss results and enter in each dice result as you want. But you can also just bring up this form here and enter in your left die result, your right die result. And the color coding just tells you, it's a good indicator of, just gives you a quick visual of whether the number that came out is on axis or off axis. Like the the ones in dark blue are the primary face sets. So those are your face, it's either both tops or both facing, or both bottom or both back faces. So those 4, and then the ones in this lighter blue gray are double pitches, on axis double pitch. The ones in this teal color are single pitch on axis. The pink are left die off axis. I'm sorry, it's right die off axis, and the green is left die off axis, and the orange is both die. The red is both die off axis. As well. So as you enter in numbers, you can just click, and it'll just keep adding to your results. Everything updates on Bone Tracker as you enter each roll.
And I want to say that if I remember right, there's a tab down there at the end that you can print off a worksheet. So if you don't have a laptop or if you don't have a way to put them in at the table, you can record your rolls and input them later.
Yes, this is the worksheet here. When I'm practicing at home, I just have a little notebook. I don't have my laptop here at the table with me and Bone Tracker. I find it too distracting. I want to, if Bone Tracker were sitting next to me as I was tossing dice, I'd be looking at each. I might be tempted to go look at different tabs and take you away from the task at hand of just trying to execute your toss and throw your best control shots. So I tend to I have a little notebook and I write down the numbers, left, right, and then when I'm done, I come back upstairs and enter them into Bone Tracker. But that's a preference how you want to do it, whatever works best for you.
All right, so if you can go back over to that first tab, the roll data tab, we do see some differences right away in this version versus the old version. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what are we getting in the new one?
So in the previous version, this whole big section here, in gray, next to the toss results, in between the toss results and the foundation, the stuff to the right with the toss count and everything, it's called those are what are called the foundation frequencies. And so the stuff that's in between the toss result and the foundation frequency section of this page, that shows basically this is new in the new version. Basically, it breaks down kind of a quick visual of what the toss result was in terms of, was it a primary face hit? Was it a hard way? Was it left die off axis with the right die off axis? Double pitch. So it's just that, that's essentially taking a lot of this information that's on this pop-up form when you're entering your rolls and kind of giving it, looking at that result on a roll by roll basis. So you can just kind of see at a glance, and you're seeing a long string of primary face hits, and you're going off axis a lot in groups. So it's a kind of nice little quick visual. Did you hit a stretch where all of a sudden you were double pitching, and maybe give you a second to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, what was I doing? Was my fingers not aligned, or whatever?
One of the things that Heavy's going to talk about is measured expectations. And I can see from the screenshot that over here that you are a dice influencer, but your SRR on this particular set is 8.57. Now, that's still quite a bit better than my SRR, but sure. Can you maybe give us a little bit of preview about dice control and dice influence and what we should expect as we're starting this journey? Well,
the average SRR is as it says here, is 6. That's the one roll in 6 is going to be your odds for rolling a 7. So that bears the reason that over a long haul, you're going to trend towards that number. You're going to have short-term sets of rolls where you're either going to go way below that, or you're going to go way above that. You're going to go through stretches where your SRR might be 10, 20, 25, and you're going to have SRR, and you're going to run into those sessions where your SRR is 3, 4, or 5.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think one of the things that I see on our Facebook forums is quite a bit is somebody will take a screenshot of those metrics, and I'm guilty of it too. I've done this myself, so I am in there with everybody else, and it shows like 24 rolls, and my SRR is 18.5 or something awesome like that. But there's a reason that you want 720 some odd rolls.
You get less than say 200. The results are, a lot of the results can be attributed to just short-term variance. what we're looking for in terms of measuring your ability to influence and to measure that and to generate any sort of conclusions about what you're doing with your toss. You need to have a decent data set built up to kind of eliminate some of the short-term variance, either good or bad. My personal opinion is that I think we way overuse SRR as a metric for measuring DI. One of my favorite sporting movies is a movie called Moneyball. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Dave. It's a baseball movie. It's Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, a bunch of other guys. But anyway, it's a baseball movie about the Oakland Athletics, who adopted Brad Pitt plays a character named Billy Bean, who was the general manager for the Oakland Athletics. They're going through a rebuilding stage, and he wound up adopting this theory for running the baseball team called Moneyball, which is entirely based on statistics. And there was a scene early on in the movie between him and Jonah Hill, who was the mathematician guy that he hired on to kind of help with implementing this Moneyball method of building a team. And they used Johnny Damon as, they were talking about Johnny Damon, who had been traded from the Athletics to the Red Sox. And Jonah Hill goes, Johnny Damon represents a misunderstanding of how baseball teams value their players. And I think that SRR is the Johnny Damon of DI. It's way overused. People look at SRR as the only metric to measure the ability to influence a dice. You can have an SRR of 4 and still be a fantastic DI person. That in and of itself is also a measure of influence. The ability to throw sevens is just as easy, is just as good as the ability to not throw them. That's just an indication of how. It's just an indication of how good the set that you're using is to avoid or to hit it or not avoid a 7.
Yeah, we had a comment in our last show from Wager Me This, Jacob over at Wager Me This channel. He said, why don't dice influencers embrace the 7 more? Why don't we shoot for the 7? What would you say to this?
I would say that there are times when that makes sense. The reason why I think most players avoid it, well, I mean, there are a number of reasons, but I think in terms of if you're at a crowded table, if you're where there's more than just you and maybe 1 or 2 other guys, if you throw a 7, your hand ends. So the dice aren't in your hands, and then they move on. But if you're at a table where you can get the dice back in your hands quickly, then playing a dark side game where you bet the don'ts, get a bunch of bets set up, and then throw a 7. And if you can roll a 10 or a 6 or an 8, you can roll a 7. And the 7 is more. There are more occurrences. There are more ways to throw a 7 than there are any other combination of numbers. So if you're at a table where the conditions warrant it, it's a perfectly good way to have a good profitable session.
Yeah. All right, let's go back over to the comments for a minute. I've been holding one that I wanted to bring up from Don Wood. Hey, sorry I'm late. What kind of crap have we given Mark so far? So Don, there's still plenty of time. Be sure to leave some comments out there, and we'll tag him and get him on the air here. Flipping down through here.
Time for some heckling, so that's good.
Let's see here. Michael Feldman saying he's been good so far.
Surprisingly good.
Yeah. Okay, here we got a question from Michael Feldman. Where is your favorite place to play craps and why?
Oh, God, that's a tough one. My favorite place to go play is Biloxi. I love going to Biloxi, even over Vegas. There are a number of good places to play that are there. So you're not, there are a number of places to play in general, but there are a number of casinos that are there that have good conditions to play at. The Mississippi odds are favorable towards dice setters. You're looking at 10 or 20x games generally in a lot of the places, in terms of odds. They do automatic buys on not only the 4 and 10, but they also do buys on the 5 and 9s, which
Wow.
is, if you like playing the inside numbers, automatic buys starting at $20 on a 5 or 9 is just phenomenal. And you play the big on the back end. You don't pay it up front. So in terms of rules, you can't beat Mississippi for the rules on craps and how they are the most favorable towards DI people. And in terms of Biloxi itself, I love playing it. The Hard Rock is probably my favorite of the places to play there. I like, Harrah's is also decent. Depends upon the mood that I'm in. Harrah's can be okay. IP is another good one, although I find the tables a little inconsistent. In New England, Mohegan Sun by far is my favorite place to play, but it's about an hour and a half from the house. I play it when I'm around home. I play in Rhode Island. The closest one to me is in Tiverton, which is about a half hour from my house. It's a Twin River property. It's their sister property to their flagship property, which is in Providence, Rhode Island. Or I guess they're called Valleys now. Atlantic City is nice. I like Atlantic City. I'm mainly a Caesars guy, so I like to play at Harrah's in Atlantic City. Vegas. God, there's any number of places I like to play in Vegas. There's so many different places, but trying to find whether you want a strip game or off strip or downtown. I love playing down at the M, down south and down in Henderson when I'm in Vegas. Nice little out of the way place, but it's just a beautiful property. Nice dealers, decent table conditions, lower minimums. Yeah.
All right, so a couple of questions. I see one from Some Young Guys Games, Ting, our friend Ting, wanting to know is when is Heavy going to release a new dice-controlled DVD?
I know
you have any insight?
I know Heavy's got some video irons in the fire. I don't know exactly when that's coming into fruition, but I know he's doing a lot more video work these days. So I don't know specifics about a timeline for anything new coming from him. I think there should be something new this year in terms of some of that video work that he's been working on.
Yeah, so Ting, I can tell you that Heavy is working on both YouTube and Patreon content. So that's going to be coming very soon, including some of his old work on the seminar from, I can't remember the year. His current DVD will also be available out there, I believe, on the Patreon site. We'll get more information from Heavy when he comes on the show here pretty soon. All right, so, oops, sorry about that. I saw another question over here from the Dice Grinder. Can't wait for the new release of Bone Tracker. Is there an ETA?
I think a lot of what's left in this new version of Bone Tracker is basically just house cleaning. A lot of the data is kind of a little bit more spread out than I like. A lot of the functionality is there that I want to put in, that Nate and I want to put into it. It's a matter of doing some cleanup and kind of moving some things around, maybe implement a couple more things. But I want the way I've been trying to drive this new version is to, at least my opinion is, I want to get the bulk of the stuff out. I don't want to cram in everything we've got this long laundry list of ideas that we want to do to it, but I want to get the really big bang stuff of it out sooner rather than later. But I think that still means it's a few months out.
Okay. So a few months out, we'll be looking forward to that one. So Joseph Batista out there is asking, does Bone Tracker work on Apple products?
And Bone Tracker itself is just it's an Excel spreadsheet, so it requires some. I mean, it works. It's written and designed to work in Microsoft Excel, and Bone Tracker, especially the newer Bone Tracker, has a lot more macros that are essentially these user-defined functions that do a lot of the heavy lifting behind the scenes when you're entering data and all the other numbers that are spread throughout the tabs on the worksheet. And those macros, unfortunately, are not portable to other spreadsheet applications. So there are some things that don't work when you go to to an Apple platform, or if you, even on Google Sheets. A lot of it works. A lot of the old Bone Tracker works on like in Google Sheets or over on a Mac. don't know how portable the macros are from Microsoft Excel and Windows to Microsoft Excel that runs on Mac.
Yeah, I can tell you they're not.
Yeah, and neither Nate or I are Mac people. You know, I'm a Windows guy, and I think Nate is too. But what I want to do, what I'd love to do, rather than putting into something that works on an Apple, I'd want to invest first into writing a Google Sheets equivalent port of Bone Tracker that will run anywhere.
I agree.
Yeah, so if I can find time to sit down and rework the macros that run in the current Bone Tracker and implement them to work on Google Sheets, that's probably what I would put my efforts into first.
Yeah. So Joseph, I've been using Bone Tracker, the current version of Bone Tracker on a Mac for close to 2 years now, and I miss the PC. I'll be honest with you. I would rather use it with a PC because you do miss that little input grid. That's probably the biggest thing that I miss. And then you have a macro that I wish I could remember the name of this slide, but it has a little a curve with a bar chart on it that just won't work on the Mac. So
that's the rolls between sevens tab I think you're talking about.
Yes, the rolls between sevens. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, coming back over here, Dice Grinder is asking some more questions. Will the new Bone Tracker benefit the off-axis shooters, or is it geared just for on-axis shooters?
I think it's a matter of how you look at the data. It's written. Its presentation is more lends itself more to on-axis interpretation. But there's nothing that says you can't, use the same data and just kind of look at it sideways.
Yeah, Mark, I would have to say that I do a lot of off-axis shooting.
Sure.
I know my shot fairly well, and I know that my on-axis is usually less than 50%. So I know that as my on-axis number starts to creep up, my shot is actually off. It's understanding the numbers and what they can tell you and what you can derive from it. So
I think in terms of on-axis versus off-axis, if you're just starting out, this is the way I would look at it, and it's the way we kind of teach people in Heavy's classes, is that when you're first starting out, you're gonna be all over the place, and probably heavy on the off-axis stuff. When you're first starting out and learning the game, it's worth putting the effort into analyzing what's wrong with your toss, and to try to fix it and to get those on-axis numbers up. But at some point, when you become proficient, if you're still throwing off-axis, there are just some people who have maybe something with the way your hand is constructed, or the way the way your arm swings across your body, the way you're built, that an on-axis toss just isn't going to be in the cards for you. And you can be just as influential if you're consistently throwing over a long sample size. At least 10,000 rolls or so. But I would need to build up some serious data that would indicate influence on the off-axis numbers before I would think about using them. But it's certainly nothing wrong with that, I don't think, in the long run. But if you're just starting out, I would focus more on trying to refine your toss and then seeing if you can get to a better on-axis result.
All right, Mark, we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I'm going to rapid fire some of these questions and comments here. James Ross, how can we get a copy of this?
Bone Tracker?
Yes.
Bone Tracker is available from Heavy's website. Just go to accesspowercrafts.com, and on the left-hand side, there's a series of menus. One towards the bottom is download Bone Tracker. And it will download as a zip archive. So you just need some way to unpack it. That includes the instructions how to the user documentation and Bone Tracker itself.
Yeah, James. So just go to www.accesspowercrafts.com. On the left-hand side, you'll see a download link, and from there, you should be able to extract it with your favorite extractor and start rolling. And Don Wood out there is, why a book of 720? And can I view SRR over 3,000 rolls or combine any of workbooks?
Great question. So the math of analyzing dice works best in groups of 36 rolls, just because the numbers work out in terms of trying to calculate, for an average set of tosses, how many threes or how many fours or how many sixes would be expected in that group of tosses. So thinking of your dice results in groups of 36 tosses is the most natural in terms of the numbers that you're going to be that Bone Tracker is going to throw at you. So then extrapolating that out, you want to build up a decent sample size to work with. So at 36 in groups of 36, that's 720 is 20 groups of 36. So that's a decent sample size to be able to look at your data and try to glean some sort of information from it. And where that break point is in terms of how many tosses can you before you start looking at it, that number varies. I think there's still value. You can look at less tosses, but I wouldn't go lower than say like 360 before I really started taking a serious look at what Bone Tracker was trying to tell me, and then trying to infer any sort of results from it.
But can you combine books together to see longer data sets?
Yes. So actually, one of the enhancements to the new Bone Tracker is the new version that's coming out, the 5602 version. We've extended the default number of tosses from 720 to 1440. So we doubled the number of tosses out of the box that you can enter into a book. But it's easily extendable up to 7,200 tosses. So you can easily extend the Bone Tracker, the existing Bone Tracker to support up to 7,200 tosses in a book.
Very nice. Okay, moving on. Michael Feldman, when you're shooting, would you ever bet on the 7?
If I'm playing Dark Side, absolutely. But actually, let's see. So if I'm playing what Heavy refers to as a game within a game, which is basically it's your come out game. When you're establishing a point, a number of us will pick a set that is horn rich, but still has so a lot of 2s, 3s, 11s, and 12s, and we'll play. While we're setting the point, we will make horn bets, world bets. So I guess there's a 7 bet in there somewhere with it. If you go with a world bet, that's more just a protection against the horn. But if I'm playing Dark Side, we've certainly done sessions with Heavy where we've had a group of us where we've gone to a table and we've all played Dark Side. So that's always fun. And Nate loves that in particular. Nate is our Dark Side guru. Nate Fernandez, Darth Nader. So he's our Dark Side guru, and he loves having a Dark Side session. Heavy even runs one of his classes every year is dedicated to the Dark Side, Dark Side betting strategies, and we'll do a lot of sessions during the weekend where we'll all go out and we'll play Dark Side.
All right, so a couple more. This next question, I've seen this come up quite a bit, but Mark, is the SOR going to be in the new version? The 7-out ratio.
You know how I feel about SRR already, right? In terms of, I think it's way overused as the metric for measuring DI. SOR, I don't want to go anywhere near SOR. SOR to me is just mental masturbation. When you throw a 7, it doesn't matter when you throw it. Unless you're trying to throw a 7, then when a 7 comes in your hand, it's just blind luck whether it's one that ends your hand or whether you're getting paid on it. So SOR to me is just, I don't know who came up with the metric, but it's not one that I use.
Yeah, the SOR is a feel-good metric in my opinion. It's a
it's mental masturbation.
But I'm even on a come-out roll. And I don't represent all dice influencers, of course, but even on a come-out roll, I'm not actually shooting for a 7. And maybe I should be, but I'm not. I'm trying to avoid that 7 at all costs. So that, again, to me, as the SOR is not a meaningful number for me.
Yeah, the two numbers that actually there's 3, but the 2 numbers that people won't get upset with me about that I think matter the most in terms of measuring your influence are the SRR and the BSR, which is your box box numbers to 7 ratio. That's what you want when you're shooting light side. You care about box numbers. So how many box numbers are you throwing between sevens? That's a good metric. I mean, you could have a great SRR, but if you're throwing whole numbers all over the place, you ain't making any money unless you're betting them. So in terms of, you want to have a good SRR, obviously they have long hands, but the numbers that you're throwing in between those sevens matter as much, or if not more, than the SRR itself. And if you care, the number that I think is most important that's in Bone Tracker for measuring your influence on dice is the chi-squared number. It's a purely mathematical way of looking at influence. Completely irrespective.
I have a love-hate relationship with that thing.
It knows nothing about craps. It knows nothing about DI. It is a purely unfiltered, unbiased look at your number distribution and your fit. It's basically chi-squared is all about face control, dice face control.
Yeah.
And if you control the faces if you're going a lot of top faces and a lot of bottom faces, or front or back, I don't care which ones they are. If you have a preponderance of left thigh top and right thigh bottom, or right thigh facing, you're going to have a good chi, and that's a really great measure of influence.
Yeah, so I know we're running short on time, so I'm trying to throw as many comments up there as I can. Everybody out there in the community, thank you for putting so many comments out there. I really appreciate it. But we're going to try to get through as many as we can. Forgive me, I just got here. Any go-to tips for aspiring dice influencers? Well, your friend Michael Feldman answered that one. Said, take a class and practice, practice, practice.
Michael's right. That's what it comes down to. Is we can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. A couple of applies here, I think. The classes impart the basics to you, the how, but it's up to you to take that knowledge and go home and apply it. And if you don't put in the time, it's just like playing a sport. You're not going to improve your game.
Then we've got Goose Hider. Do you recommend tracking rolls for thousands of tosses, or is it best to reset the stats after a certain number of rolls? Or I'll add one more, or a certain time limit.
Anytime you materially change your toss, you need to jettison everything, all your data up to that point. You're starting over from scratch, and you want to remeasure what that toss is doing to your influence from that point forward. But with that said, I think looking at books, so you get a collection of maybe 10 books of rolls, where the 7,200 books of rolls, 10 of those 72,000 tosses, or even just 10 books of 720 tosses. Those are comparing from book to book to book. There's information to be gained in terms of how your tosses are improving, over groups of reasonable sets of data, as well as just combine them all together. But again, if you're changing your toss at all, making any sort of reasonable tweak to how you're throwing the dice, and that invalidates any data you built up to that point.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the next question from Kevin M. This guy must be a super user. Do you recommend keeping rolling books of 720, or is a book of Bone Tracker data I have from 2012 be of any use to me today?
And you probably change your toss. Anyone is probably from that long of a time. You certainly have changed your toss, or if you're collecting data from different table positions, even you want to. If you want to, practice from stick right one, and gather data from that table position versus collecting data from straight out. I wouldn't try to merge those kind of together, those kind of dice results together. You want as much commonality in the way you're tossing, where you're tossing from, the table conditions. You want to measure like data. You don't want to mix and match data, because that just invalidates.
Yeah. Then we've got Kay out there watching us tonight. This is, what's your favorite pressing strategy on place bets?
Well, I start off with a regression with an initial steep regression play. And then from there, I work within. So I treat each number separately. Whether if I'm betting let's say all the inside numbers. I track I track my bets on those and progressions separately from one another. So each one gets their own set of progressions. So and what I do is I have a set. I try to keep the number of progressions that gets to a point where the sessions start repeating themselves, so I can easily memorize them. So like on a 6, if I'm pressing the 6, I'll go from 18 to 30 to 42 to 60 to 90 to 120 to 180. Then at 180, I'm repeating. So I go from 180 to 300, and then 300 to 420, 420 to 600. It just makes breaking down your bet progressions for me in terms of smaller chunks of where the data starts to repeat and you're just adding zeros to it makes it a lot easier to manage your bet progressions and memorizing them at the table, which is I think is vitally important to be able to be effective at DI. So you only need to focus on tossing your dice. The pressure should be automatic.
Awesome. Well, Mark, we caught up. We are at the end of all of the comments, which is pretty good timing. We're just a few minutes over for the show tonight.
Do you want to see anything about the new bone tracker?
Yeah. Let's take a look.
We haven't had a chance to do that yet. I can highlight some of the big bang stuff. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Yep. Let me flip back over there.
This is the version I have. It's probably a couple months old, but it reflects a lot of the current thinking of where it's headed.
So I'm waiting for it to load. Then I'll flip back over to it. There we go.
Okay, so this is the new bone tracker. This is the same set of tosses that was in the old version that we spent a little bit of time on before. One of the things we're adding in is an ATS meter, basically keep track of how many times you're hitting the small versus and the tall and the all. This is one of the cleanup things. There's a bunch of ATS stuff that's kind of sprinkled throughout the different tabs at this point, and we need to kind of pull them back in and get them more consolidated. But at least the metric is there too. Is there for it. I want to add in a fire bet tracker. It's probably more for my buddy my buddy John Sisak than anybody, but I'll throw that in for him. No extra charge, buddy. So we've had an ATS checker. We've got this, so that's been added to what you saw in 5602, which was the foundation frequencies, and then this section here, the per toss access result table here. For your transpose tab, this is an old one. We've added even in 5602. Let me just bring up 5602 for a second. We added it. Here it is. On the transpose tab, we expanded the number of user-defined sets quite a lot. 1, 2, 3. So there's 24 different custom, user-defined sets you can add in here. That bone tracker will keep track for you. And we'll do the transfer. When you're throwing a 3V set and you toss it, and you toss a 6, you throw a 6 too. The bone tracker will automatically transpose that into this new set and give you the right number for it, for all these sets automatically for you. So it's a nice way to kind of do what if comparisons for you, and in terms of how different sets would behave for you with the same set of tosses. You don't have to keep generating tosses with different dice sets. The highlighted in here, these little things in pink, are showing you the ones that have the highest occurrence of the numbers for the different sets over here. So
I found that to be very useful. So if I'm shooting for the 6s and 8s, that's a very quick and easy way for me to find the best set.
Yep, exactly. So coming back here, this new version of Bone Tracker looks at things in a couple different ways. So I would say the old version of Bone Tracker and the way everyone thinks about BI right now is all about sets and set families. So like a 2V set or a 3V set, cross sixes, straight sixes, partly all the six foundation sets that are out there that make up the 576 different sets that are there. And all those 576 fall into one of the six foundation families. What we've done in the new Bone Tracker is we've taken this notion of the transpose. Actually, there's a tab in the Bone Tracker called the transpose 64, which takes your tossing set reference, like whatever set you use to toss the book with, it will generate all 64 combinations of that set family for you here, and give you all the permutations of all the different sets that comprise that set family.
Okay.
We've expanded that a lot into transpose tabs for each. I'm kind of scrolling here along the bottom. For each of the dice of the foundation set families. So there's you want to see what all the 3V sets look like. You can take a look all 64 flavors of the 3V set and how they behave for you, what's the SRR on it, and how those sets perform for you. There's a 2V tab. It's a cross six tab. Straight sixes, parallel sixes.
Well, that's really nice that it's broken down by the families.
Yes.
Not so much data to have to wade through. You can quickly find the data you're looking for with the set or the family that you're looking for.
Yeah, I know this is old because this row here we've changed to show the box the BSR numbers here across all of these too. So you see the box numbers to 7 ratios for all the sets as well. This is old data. This is an old version. It's still only showing the number of tosses, and we've since changed that out, and we're now adding more information about the box numbers to 7 ratio, which is like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the most important DI metrics to look at. So we've taken that set view of DI and expanded it to, I think, its fullest potential in this new version. You've got all 576 sets represented, and you can go to say how would it look if I threw an all 7 set, or versus a straight 6s set? How do my numbers change from all those tosses I recorded?
Yeah.
But the real exciting part is this coaster stuff. Coaster is that guy Doug Fryer that I mentioned that kind of came up with this idea that we've taken and implemented in this new Bone Tracker. We need to come up with a name for it, but basically, instead of looking at numbers, looking at dice from a set point of view, like the 2V or the 3V or the cross sixes, etc. The way I look at this is it looks at it from an SRR group perspective. So if you come along the top here, there are 24 different sets here and set families, where everyone in this column, let's pick this column for example, the 7s are all on the same faces. Any combination of 7s occur on the same faces. So every set here gives you the same SRR, okay? But you'll have different number distributions for each of these sets with the same SRR. So some of these sets might be having horn numbers, some of them might be having the 6s or 8s, some of them might be having 4s and 10s or whatever. You don't know that until you look at the numbers. But each of these sets here are guaranteed to have the same SRR because the numbers occur on the same faces of the dice. Okay. Same with this set. This is a set that gives me a horrible SRR, 5.14 for the same set of tosses. But all of these sets will give me a 5.14 SRR, but different number distributions within them. Okay. And then so it's extremely easy to come look at this table and say, okay, which ones? So this set group here, this SRR group here, gave me the highest SRR across all of these 24 groups. And so it's 24 SRR groups, and within each group there's 20 different sets. Okay, so that's 500. That's all 576 tosses. I'm sorry, it's 24 by 24. This is just an extremely powerful way to look at your results. So this just gives you your SRR groups here. These numbers stay static. It's Bone Tracker's calculating your SRR for each of these groups, and then over here you can actually pick. Okay, I want to figure out this first group, second group, and third group. These are the three highest ones, your three highest SRR numbers in the groups. So Bone Tracker will fill this out automatically for you, or you can enter in if you want to do specific ones, you can do that too. But it will automatically figure out, it will fill in these three highest groups, and down here is your three lowest SRR groups if you want to play dark side. So if you take those numbers, you come over here to this XP tab. This is now taking those groups and giving you a transpose tab for all 24 sets within that SRR group. And you can see they all have the same SRR. They all have different. I think this is some of the BSR stuff. These are the box number to 7 ratios here. Okay, so you can see right here.
Oh yeah, so we've got both key metrics there.
I've got an 8.57, but I've got a 6.18 box number 7 ratio. So I've got the highest occurrence of box numbers between 7s with this toss. And then you can see for every other number, for single numbers, 2 through 12, how your numbers, how your distribution numbers change. You can look over here at the different groups. If you want to look at, okay, what's my best number for throwing inside numbers? Okay, here's the number for inside numbers. Come over here, see where it's highlighted within this set group, where everything is 8.57 SRR. My highest SRR possible with that set of rolls. Right here, this one highlighted in yellow. These ones are the highest number of inside number occurrences for those sets. Okay, and then you can come further. If you come across, it's applied to this your second highest SRR from the SRR groups. Same thing. Everything's just highlighted, so you can say, okay, I'm going to sacrifice a little bit in SRR, but maybe I find a set over here that gives me even more 6s and 8s. So you got to make that trade-off between what is a higher SRR versus being able to throw a certain number or certain group of numbers.
Yeah.
So it enabled the kind of refining down what sets work best for you for a given set of tosses. And also now this opens up a door for trying to snipe out numbers. If you're trying to throw an ATS number, an ATS, for example, and you need a 5. You can come over here, and say, I can find out what set is going to allow me to be able to give me the chance to throw the highest number of 5s, right? But not sacrifice anything in my SRR. Okay, so
yeah. So
come over here. So I can change sets here. Maybe I change to a 1-3-1-2 set, which is a cross 6 family. You can see the family that the sets come from here too as well. So this set happens to be from a cross six family, whereas this set over here, which gives me also a high number of 5s, it's a 2V set. Same SRR, but it gives me different number distributions, and I can find out, do I want to throw a particular number? So if you want to try to change sets in the middle of a hand and to snipe out a number, this becomes extremely easy to do. It opened my eyes as to just how powerful this is.
Yeah, Bone Tracker is an amazing an analytical tool that everybody needs to get familiar with. It will help you understand your game. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
But if I could make one suggestion, Mark.
Absolutely.
When you're ready to release it,
yeah,
let's do a video, just the highlights, and walk through it, and just help people. Just a video tutorial that we can put up somewhere in a heavy forum or something that can give them the basics, an overview of the tool. And I think that'll save you a lot of questions, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, well, we definitely want to get into more Bone Tracker education for sure. I mean, the Bone Tracker, and even the old version, it's a very complex tool throws a lot of data at you. If you really don't know how to use it effectively, you're not going to get as much out of it as what it really offers you. And even more so with this. This is just, the new bone tracker just amps that up, exponentially. But there's a lot of great data in here. And I think the way it looks at data now is just, it changes the way at least for me, it changes the way I look at analyzing my results.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are over schedule, and I do want to give a couple of guys a shout out. We've got Robert Barnes and Duracell 8 out there, both giving super chats tonight. Guys, thank you very much. It's very much appreciated, and I'm not worthy is kind of what the words that come to my head, but thank you. Deep felt appreciation, so thank you very much. Mark, also, thank you for coming on the show. I know that I'm glad we actually had the full hour. I'm sorry we didn't have Heavy here tonight, but we had a lot of great information coming from you, and that was
fun. I was looking forward to doing it with Heavy too, but Heavy will add a whole new dynamic to whatever we talk about in terms of access. Yeah. If you want to have me back on with him, I'd be happy to do that, or just Heavy. In fact, for now by himself, no problem. So
yeah. I was going to say, in fact, if everybody hangs on for just a few minutes, we are going to have a sneak preview of what's coming out on Heavy's YouTube channel and his Patreon account. It's just some sound bites, so it's nothing revealing, but at least it's going to give you a sneak peek of what we have to come. We also got Michael Feldman out there giving a super chat. Guys, thank you so much. Again, I can't thank you enough. All right, Mark, any last comments for the audience?
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the table someday soon, hopefully. So, like I said, David, thanks for having me on, and thanks for all everybody that came on and listened in. I appreciate all the comments, and thanks for watching. And keep watching Dave's channel. He does a great job with this. So.
All right, Mark, hang in there for a few minutes, and I'll catch you right after the promos, if you would. All right, guys, now it comes to the time of the show where we talk about the likes, comments, and subscribes. And based on your super chats, guys, that's the best recognition that I could ever have. But I am trying to build a social media presence. I've got Instagram, I've got Facebook, I've got Twitter, and I've got whatever the hell that little blue thing is up in the Discord. That's what it is, Discord. So you can find me on all of these different things, and I'll put some links in the comments on where you can find me on these different types of forums. So before we go, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. The calendar is getting full, and it's actually kind of exciting. On February 22nd, next week, we have Ed Robinson, and he's going to be talking about some of his secrets in the casino. I've only known Ed for a couple of weeks in person, well, at least through more personal contact, but I've known Ed for quite a while in some of the forums. And the words that I used to describe him, calm, cool, and collected. And I did a little play on that, calm, cool, and collect. That's how you're going to win in the casino. So Ed's going to be here to talk about that next week. On March 1st, we have Jeremy Ellerick from Color Up. That's right. The one of the original YouTube superstars for craps is going to be here on the channel. He's got over 50,000 or close to 50,000 subscribers, and he's going to be here talking about his craps journey. On March 8th, we've got the two morons talking about casinos and stuff. A couple of pit bosses there in Las Vegas. They're going to come and tell some of their fun stories. And March 15th is going to be an interesting show. It's probably actually not going to take place on the 15th, and it's probably going to be in a remote location. So more information coming about that as soon as it's available. Then March 22nd, I'm going to be taking that week off. On March 29th, we've got Cousin Vito. He runs his own podcast, and we're going to go over to the East Coast to get a little bit more insight on gambling on the East Coast and versus the West Coast. April 5th, we have one of the largest and most popular slot machine YouTube channels. We've got the Slot Lady HQ. She is going to be joining us in April, and I believe it's going to be there on that April 5th. And then finally, April 12th, we have Howard Newman returning. We've got another night with Howard Newman. So guys, we've got a lot of stuff coming up, and if you have an idea, or if you'd like to be a part of the show, email me at that same bet777@gmail.com, or leave me a comment, and we'll get in touch, and we'll see if we can't work you in on the show. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate it, and let's close out the show with the preview of what's coming up with Excess Power Craps. Thank you, everybody.
Guys, when you walk up to the table, if you have a question about how to play the game, go back to your hotel room and read a book. Is it even odds on odd numbers or odd odds on even numbers? I get confused about all that all the time. Now, so do yourself a favor and the rest of the players a favor. Learn how to play the game before you play the game. We all know that there's a 1 in 6 chance of the 7 rolling on every toss of the dice. Get the pit and the boys on your side early. No bet. And he would pick the chips up and throw them back at you. The get skinny move. Learn it and use it and give the shooter room to work. Say, I'm a dice god. High five. Yay. You're grinding away 100, 150, 200 bucks a hand, hand after hand after hand. We're all too focused on ego and throwing big hands instead of the dollar sign and shooting for profit. Because, well, gee whiz, last year in this position, I hit the all tall or small. Don't be a position hog. Don't let your ego get in the way of you making some money instead of him. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, don't place your chips in the shooter's landing zone, for crying out loud. And if the dice hit the money, they are going to roll funny. Do dice have ears? I don't think so. Until I hear somebody walk by and say the word 7 at the table. And this is one of the first things we talk about when we go into the classes, and it's what I call measured expectations. And brother, if you cannot make money on a 14-roll hand, you are playing the wrong game. It has to do with charting. Could you believe that? People want to know about tracking the numbers that roll and how that influences what I bet. I get that second hit, I'm in Fat City. I'm off to the races. Pound this into your brain, memorize it all, and then you'll be ready to take it to the casino and make more money. Thanks a lot again. We'll see you down the road.